Game week is finally here for Michigan State. But first, we got to talk about some comments about NIL from Mel Tucker, and, well, David Stone is not coming here.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off of your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you so much for kicking off not just your week, no, game week with us here at Locked On Spartans. God, I'm so excited. Let's go. It is finally here. Spartans versus Chips on Friday. I'm pumped. You're pumped. Cannot contain the excitement. So naturally, we're going to start this show with maybe something that's not as joyous as football returning in our lives, because we have some recruiting news. The big 5-star out of Oklahoma, or IMG Academy. Well, he's going to go to Oklahoma. And then Mel Tucker had some quotes on NIL before the weekend. So let's just get to that right now. You know the news already. You've probably already saw it coming for quite some time. But yes, David Stone, all-world defensive lineman from Oklahoma. He is at IMG Academy in Florida now. He committed somewhere, and it ain't Michigan State. He committed to the Sooners, a hometown team, so to speak. I believe his sister also goes there. He's been in Norman as many times as he's been to East Lansing, if not more. And there's no way to say this not arrogantly, but if you listen to Locked On Spartans, you would have known this news was coming from a mile away, whether it's my comments on the matter, whether it's recruiting expert Brian Smith, if you ever listen to one of his shows he's been on here. It was Oklahoma really the whole time. And maybe this is something that you figured would happen once Brandon Jordan and Marco Coleman left, the great pass rush specialist and also defensive line coach. But even after those guys left, he still came by. He still did an official visit here. So maybe you had some hope there, but for me, I figured that this was a pipe dream that was never going to happen when he had the quote with On3 that said, "If it's not for football, I would go to Michigan State." David, I would rather you just insult my own mother personally than say that about my program, because, oh my, that is not a quote that any fan of any football program wants to hear. If it wasn't for football, I would go there. Woo! Okay, so that's how things landed here. Now, I have a hunch on two things. This is no inside information. This is just me taking a shot in the dark that I could be very wrong about. But before his commitment on Saturday, I talked to a few friends about this, actually, because they wanted to pick my brain on David Stone. I said, this is going to sound strange, but who he commits to on Saturday, I don't think is going to be the team he ends up signing with on signing day. Now, it's not just me taking a complete shot in the dark with no basis of facts or anything. Factually, he is going to look to take visits during the season. All right, he set his commitment date. And then no less than 48 hours of that, he talked about how he wants to take a visit to Alabama this fall. Michigan State is still going to try to get him on campus for a during the season visit. There's plenty of schools that are going to try for this, because David Stone can start immediately at maybe 126 different programs in this nation. My hunch number two, though, even though I really don't think it will be Oklahoma in the end, I think that's maybe a soft commitment what we just saw on Saturday. I certainly don't necessarily see it being Michigan State. And I'm sorry to be such a Debbie Downer, but hey, maybe this is just me just mentally preparing yourself for heartbreak or tampering your expectations of a flipped commitment, because we've talked about this with Brian Smith. What solves a lot of things in life, especially college football? Winning. And what's really hard to do is flip a commitment of a kid when you're not doing a lot of winning on the field. And this could be a tough season for Michigan State. All right. Sportsbooks have you at 5.5 for your over-under. I personally think Michigan State will go 6-6 or 7-5, but I don't know if you're going to have another Peach Bowl year where you're really starting to get a lot of attention from a lot of other recruits. So, look, this hurts. All right. I don't need to tell you that not getting a 5-star defensive lineman is a bummer, but why does it hurt Michigan State specifically? there could be holes at that very position next year. Simeon Barrow could be out of here. Derek Harmon could also be out of here. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't, but still, that is a day one starter for Michigan State. So just with the whole recruitment that was, I felt like it took longer than a year we've been hearing David Stone's name, and he's been saying Michigan State's name too. After Saturday's commitment to Oklahoma, there's a lot of emotions around it, right? And first off, let me just get this out of the way. I fully realize how ridiculous it is for a grown man like myself to use the word emotions around a high school kid's decision of where he's going to go to college. I know that this is incredibly unhealthy behavior, but that's college football fandom, baby. We are all in this sickness together. So yeah, there are plenty of emotions around this. And, I do want to preface it with this. Michigan State has gotten a lot of good recruits, guys. I know that we missed out on another 5-star, but we still have a chest with, the Nick Marshes of the world, Scooter Carey, or even not just this class, but Dylan Tatum, Alex Van Sumeren, Stanton Rommel last class as well. I mean, plenty of 4-star talent to go around, a lot of home runs. But God, as Michigan State fans, doesn't it just seem like we're still waiting for that grand slam, right? I mean, that's what Mel Tucker was brought here for, recruiting. And he has done a solid job at recruiting, especially off the heels of a 5-7 season last year, still nabbing a top 25 class in the nation. There is something to be said about that. But man, you go back to all the 5-stars that visited last year, went elsewhere, like Vic Burley, went to Clemson, DJ Hicks, Samson Okalola. With all these misses for the 5-stars, what do you do differently? First and foremost, you win. Just win on the field. Bang out a few 10-win seasons. That will change the minds of some recruits as well. But go after attainable talent as well. I do think they actually switched that up with David Stone. I mean, this was a recruitment that MSU, unfortunately, came in second place yet again, but they were close with this one. Whereas the other guys I just named, like Vic Burley, Samson Okalola, DJ Hicks, I don't even know if MSU was ever sniffing the podium to begin with. So at least, they're not just chasing this kid, burning up a bunch of resources and time on a kid that was never really thinking about Michigan State in the end. Anyway, what else could you do? Maybe this would have been drastic, but after Brandon Jordan leaves, Marco Coleman leaves, you hire Sean Cooper, who is a trainer out of Oklahoma. He is coached by Jobe. He coaches with David Stone as well. Maybe you go get this trainer because he's connected to good recruits, although that would be a pretty big gamble because, hey, there's no guarantee the kids actually do commit to you, even if you do bring this trainer to the school. And, well, B, when he has no college coaching experience. So it would have been a drastic Hail Mary move, but maybe that's what you do. Or number 3, NIL. All right. Plenty of comments made about NIL from the one, the only Mel Tucker, which we will get to here in a hot second. But first, guys, just need to talk your ear off about Athletic Brewing. Now is time for your game changer of the week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like, hey, you know what? The weather that we are going to see this week. That's going to be our game changer. All right, we're not coming off a game, but the weather forecast for Friday, that is going to make tailgating amazing, and so will Athletic Brewing because they have completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, guys and gals. I mean, my wife has been drinking Athletic Brewing for quite some time, and, I'll be having my beer. She'll be having her non-alcoholic Athletic Brewing Company beer. I'll have a sip of it. It's like, holy, that is actually one of the better beers I have tasted, and you're not going to get the hangovers that come along with it. You're only going to get the great tasting and award-winning flavor that comes with every Athletic Brewing Company beer. So, hey, when you go to the tailgates this Friday or any Saturday throughout this season here in East Lansing, choose from over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, Goldens, Sours, Porters, and more from Athletic Brewing Company. They are fit for all time, so no, it just doesn't have to be a tailgate. After you're done working out, go ahead and refuel with an Athletic Brewing Company beer. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or just simply purchase one online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off of your online order. That is code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Now, before the weekend started, Graham Couch, wonderful guy, wonderful columnist for Lansing State Journal. He will actually be on this show tomorrow. How fun's that? So we're not going to go through every single quote in this column because we'll get more into it with the man himself who sat down with Mel Tucker. But there's one quote that I just wanted like a head start on. You may already know where I'm going with this because this has been talked about almost ad nauseum ever since this column dropped on Thursday, I believe. So in the column, he writes, when asked how much is needed annually to compete in the NIL space with the biggest programs in college football and the ever-growing Big Ten, Tucker said, quote, I don't know what the number is. I just know it boggles my mind how there can be an expectation to compete at the highest level, but not be at the highest level in other areas. I don't know how you do that. Now, what he means by that is, yes, Michigan State fans have expectations for a man making $9.5 million per year to deliver a product that is far superior than a 5-7 record last year. All right. And he's saying that there's not enough NIL money. He also said offhand that there are some bankrolls in the Big Ten that are in the $12 to $13 million range for NIL. And look, we're going to sound off on these comments. And you might be surprised with actually how not annoyed I am. There is one thing that bothers me. It's objectively weird. I don't even know why I'm this annoyed, but we'll figure that out later. But guys, I get it. Believe me. No one wants to hear comments like this after a 5-7 season. No one wants to hear any comments that have anything to do with an excuse after a 5-7 season. Could the timing of this quote have been a little better? You know, not within 10 days of kickoff for the next season. Maybe you could be a little irritated at that. And I know that people point out the salary, right? Like I just did, the new football building, the assistant coaches pool, which is one of the best in the nation. Do you know what? None of that does, though. None of the salary, none of the money in the football building, and none of the money the assistant coaches are getting go directly to the players' pockets. I'm going to break some news to you right now. Money matters in this world. These kids will like to make money. If you're going to go in between two schools, we'll call it Michigan State and Miami. Michigan State's offering $50,000 and Miami is offering $250,000. Where are you going to go? All right. Money talks. Everyone has a price tag, and that is what Mel Tucker is saying, that we need to up our NIL. And, you know, Mike Valeni, very popular radio personality in the Metro Detroit area. I'm sure you guys know him, Michigan State fan, very loud about the Spartans, kind of like I am at times. But he said, quote, go out and get that money, saying there's just quit complaining, just do your job, and it is your job to go out and get that NIL money. Okay, guys, like that is what Mel Tucker is doing with that quote. He is sending a light into the sky saying rich people that like Michigan State football, we're far behind everyone else. So let's start paying out of pocket for a good football team. He has gotten money, NIL money, from high-end donors. You might have heard about one of them, Matt Ishbia, of course. Now it's time to start chopping away at those second tier of donors. You know, people that may be on the fence of whether or not to commit to NIL. But this is what you have to do, because it's not just Mel Tucker that does it. Everyone from Eli Drinkowitz, James Franklin, Ryan Day, Nick Saban, they all have quotes complaining about how little NIL they have. Do you know why? It's an old adage. It's an old Chinese proverb, actually. The squeaky head coach gets the grease. All right? No one is going to donate to NIL if you're just up there talking up and down about how great NIL is. And that's actually the one thing that irritates me about this quote, is that the last few years under Mel Tucker, that is all we got. Whether it was Mel himself, Saeed Khalif, the old GM here, when they talked about NIL, they would champion Michigan State for being strong, competitive in the NIL game. Why? Why? Like, why? What was the whole point of that? Especially when it was abundantly clear that Michigan State was losing a lot of recruiting battles because of NIL. But yet every time they had the chance to talk about it, no, come to Michigan State. We have great NIL. Wrong. So the only thing I can reason with here is maybe they talked up and down about how great NIL was here. to get those recruits just in the door for their visits. Hey, check out this flashing sign. Money, money, money. You're going to come on in, and then maybe we can sell you on actually staying here until the other schools around the country also roll out their checkbooks, and they're going to offer 3 times the amount Michigan State has. So that's my issue with this quote, is just the borderline line that we got the last 2 to 3 years about how great NIL is at Michigan State. But finally, we're starting to use the correct rhetoric. I know it is a very annoying way to come off. No one likes a beggar, but you kind of have to do that if you want more money. You can't have all your top donors hearing about how great NIL is because, it's so good. Okay, I'm just going to keep this $50,000 to myself then. And again, there are a lot of issues with NIL as well as far as getting money from those donors. I mean, you don't get Spartan points if you donate to an NIL collective. Like, you don't get to upgrade your season tickets or anything like that. It doesn't show up on the athletic department's bottom line. So it's not like Alan Haller is out there himself trying to pull money from these donors to go to NIL collectives. The athletic department is judged on how much money they make for their department. NIL is not part of that, so why would they care about that? And, you don't get the tax write-offs as well with NIL collectives, and I can just see reluctance, too. I mean, just think, you're a very rich person. All right, I have $100,000. What do I want to do with this? Do I really want to give it to some kid that could very well split town after just a year? Look, I think it's pretty clear that I don't have to worry about this because I'm not worth 8 figures. I know this is going to shock a lot of you here. But if I were in that situation, I could see myself being like, the 5-star is cool, but like just for maybe 1 year before he goes south somewhere. So there's a lot of issues that you have with NIL, but how can Mel Tucker fix it? Complaining. Crying about it. Just trying to light a fire that, hey, yes, we are behind in NIL. So I know why people are upset. No one likes a beggar. No one likes a whiner. But it's productive. It is productive whining. So that's my take on it. We will get more into it with Graham Couch tomorrow on his show. And I also want to bring something up right now really quick. If you listened to the Brian Lewerke episode before the weekend, we teased that Noah Kim would be joining us. And I said, hey, I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want to jinx it. Well, folks, you never guess what happened. We jinxed it here. Got a call a few hours before the interview was supposed to happen that they would have to cancel because Noah Kim had a meeting scheduled with Mel Tucker. So he picked his head football coach over a podcaster. What gives? But no hard feelings whatsoever. Obviously, we're wishing Noah the best of luck this upcoming season, even if the interview doesn't get rescheduled. But if you're holding your breath to hear from Noah Kim, I just wanted to be transparent. That's what happened. Still trying. Doubtful. But yeah, obviously, that's the business. And when the head coach wants to talk to you instead of me, you're going to pick up that phone later on. All right, guys, we're going to get to things that you are fired up about for the upcoming season here in a hot second. Just need to talk your ears off about Gametime. This episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Gametime.co. And on Friday, when you see me walking towards Spartan Stadium, my face might be buried in my phone because I will be on the Gametime app buying my tickets. Now, why? Why am I going to do that like 5 minutes until kickoff? Because their flash deals and last-minute deals are second to none, guys. It is easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area as well. Don't just use it on college football games. Use it for the theater. Use it for concerts in your area. It is cheap, the best deals, especially with the last-minute deals as well. And when you go on their app, I absolutely love this about Gametime. You can have your price with the fees included. I know a lot of ticketing apps don't do that. And you can also get an actual picture of where your view is going to be. They are the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. So buy tickets in a matter of seconds. It's just 2 taps and you are all set. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. All right, let's leave the show with some excitement here as we are building up to kickoff on Friday. I said 1 week until kickoff on Twitter. What is one thing you're looking forward to the most next Friday? We're just going to go down the list here of what you guys had to say. We're going to riff on it. We're just going to get excited because whether it's things we're looking for on the field or things that we're looking forward to doing in a parking lot in East Lansing, plenty of good options here. Like Brandon writes in, just something basic. Seeing if we could play defense or run the ball or kick field goals or manage the clock or have good quarterback play or block or first turnovers. So just some minor stuff, says Brandon. On Friday's show coming up this week, I'll do a final thoughts episode, very similar to what we did last year, where it'll be stats or what I'm thinking going into the game. A lot of it is going to be what we are going to be watching for in this first game. Yes, it's just a lowly MAC opponent in Central Michigan, but there are a lot of takeaways, half of what Brandon just named. Robert also wrote in, watching the O-line and secondary being better. Oh, and tailgating. Too bad our university can't just give employees the day off so it could be a normal tailgate day. I hard agree on that. Typically for the 7:30 games, I believe the lots will open at noon on Saturdays throughout the season. I might be on or off by an hour there, but regardless, short tailgating hours for Friday coming up. If you missed it, donor lots will be opened at 2 p.m. if you're one of those wealthy donors that have a parking pass. Or for us plebeians like myself, 3 p.m. is when the lots are going to open. That's so they could do a half day at school. It's like, why? Just why? We get it. School's very important. It doesn't have to be on that one Friday at the very beginning of the year. Just give everyone the day off. Make it a joyous occasion. It's going to be 82 and sunny on Friday. No one wants to work in the first place. Just do the noon tailgates. Give everyone the day off. And let's just celebrate the start of Labor Day weekend and college football. So, yeah, Robert, I'm 100% in line with you right there. Or also, hey, this is a little-known fact. Here's a life hack for you. Don't have a lot of these, but when I do, I'll share them. You know who's going to let you tailgate earlier than 2 or 3 o'clock? Any golf course in the East Lansing area that you want to book a tee time for. That's right. And I get that, I'm not good at golf. You know who else isn't good at golf? Literally everyone else in the world. Go get yourself on a golf course in the East Lansing area before the game if you want to get started early there. Karen writes in, Nathan Carter, 8.7 yards per carry. Let's go. And the first Kim to Mosley touchdown. 8.7 yards per carry is a healthy amount to look for, but it's going to be a good test against Central because they have 10 returning starters on that defense coming up. If we're getting 8.7 yards out of Nathan Carter, which very well could break out a few big runs, hit a few home runs, if you will, we're going to feel a lot better about the rest of the season than we were. Justin Spiro, just a casual 233 yards rushing from Nathan Carter as well. Going to be fascinated with how they divvy up the splits here early on. I think it'll be a Jalen Berger, Nathan Carter 50-50 split unless they're within the 3-yard line down towards the goal line. Then it'll be a Jaron Mangum show. But yeah, God, I just love the enthusiasm around the rushing game here. Mr. Fuzz says, see if we can run the ball and stop the run. Simple as that. Jason, it being a beautiful day for football. Zeke's fan page wrote in that first go green, go white chant. I want to tie both those in. It's a beautiful day for football and go green, go white. When I think of opening day, there's always one thing that just gives you the goosebumps, really makes you realize that football is back. I know for some people, it's a beautiful day for football. Others, it's the first go green, go white chant. For me, nothing gets the blood pumping more than when the drum line takes the field, the marching band takes the field, and just the go state, go. Oh, God. Oh, I can feel the goosebumps right now just thinking about it. That hits every single time. Oh, you're so close. Just 4 more days. Hunter says, seen the new uniforms under the lights. I actually don't know if we will see the new uniforms under the light. Well, no, I'm going to stop myself. All the uniforms are new this year. They all have the Greek stripe down the helmet. They have Greek on the shoulders. I don't think we'll see the all blacks is what I mean. I could very well be very, very wrong here, but I think with the stripe, the stadium, which they will be doing, one section is green, one section is white. My guess is that they do white pants, green jersey, white helmet. Striped jerseys for the stripe, the stadium, We'll see if I'm dead wrong. They usually come out with that the day before, so look forward to that on Thursday. Justin writes in, the defensive line blowing up every run play and getting to the quarterback. This is going to be something we are absolutely going to watch for, because this is going to be a strength of the team, the defensive front 6 or 7, however you want to look at it. Or if you just want to simply look at the defensive line, that could be a strength as well. Central Michigan coming off of a year with pretty bad offensive line play. They're trying to shore it up with a new coach, done great work in the FCS. I don't know if he could rally the troops that quickly, but if Michigan State isn't dominating the defensive line versus offensive line battle, that will not be good. So yes, when we do our episode Friday, that will be one of the first things that we are going to watch for, is how dominant the defensive line can be against a MAC opponent like Central. Jerry writes in, the team running out of the tunnel, through the student athlete tunnel, where they get all the student athletes from all the different sports. Football team runs through that. A really cool tradition that I don't know if we could still call it new, but that's definitely a lot of fun on opening night. Cedar Village Bagel writes in, playing in-state schools is so much better than any other non-conference early game. 100,000% agree. If it was up to me, I would open up every single season with an in-state school, whether it's Eastern, Central, or Western, because it just makes the atmosphere that much more festive. I mean, you got people coming down from Mount Pleasant to hang out, and we all know a fair share of Central Michigan fans too. The ones in my life, great to hang out with. It just makes tailgating that much better, instead of like playing, I don't know, like UTSA or Northern Colorado or anything random like that. So Police Chief of Flavortown, great name, by the way. When Central Michigan goes up 7-0, I quickly drink my third Miller Lite and mutter, not again. That's the spirit we are looking for, Police Chief. There we go. Raspy Alloy writes in, my first game in the deep end. That's special. That's going to be awesome. I remember one of my first games, not the first game, but one of my first games, Little Giants. So hopefully for you, Raspy Alloy, it doesn't come down to a fake field goal in overtime in order to beat Central Michigan. But I do hope that you have some amazing memories in the student section, because I miss it. Got to see Rocket in the student section. Got to see just so many great games. A bunch of wins against Michigan as well. That was fun too. And then we're gonna take it home here with Bill. Bill writes in, a big fourth quarter comeback win for our Spartans. Bill, I don't know if I want to see a fourth quarter comeback from our Spartans. I would really like to be able to just watch the game haphazardly from the third quarter on. I do. I'll tell you what I don't want to see in 4 days. It's a fourth quarter comeback from our Michigan State Spartans, because I'm like, oh, look, I know that we had to do that against Utah State back in, 2018 that we just talked about with Brian Lewerke. Utah State was a very good team that year. They were actually a really good team. No shame in escaping that game. There will be a little bit of shame if you have to escape Central Michigan, though. A team picked to finish in the middle of the MAC. They'll have a fine defense, but quite frankly, I don't know how the Chips are going to move the ball. We will find out how they're going to move the ball later this week. We're going to talk with Adam Joxka. He is I hope I said that name right. I know he's been listening to this podcast. I may have just butchered his name completely, and now he's going to cancel this interview. Regardless, we're going to hear from him. He is the voice of the Chips, the play-by-play guy. We're going to talk with him later this week as well to get to know Central Michigan. We got Graham Couch tomorrow. We're going to talk with Chase Glasser later on in the week as well. Full slate of shows leading up to kickoff. I'm excited for kickoff on Friday at Spartan Stadium. I hope you guys are too. And I hope you keep it tuned to Locked on Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Love you all. Go Green.